Enough? Thank you. Okay. So today I'm presenting a project that is a project I'm working on from 2018. So it's 5 years I'm working on that, and it's just the first part, the theoretical part of the hypothesis of this technique that is based on the use of some system of analysis of movement and sonification. As a choreographer teacher, I like to work and investigate on the interaction between new technologies and dance. So that's the first attempt to have a sort of result in a technique and training. And I started speaking about what's sonification exactly. The sonification has its own definition, a scientific word. Is the transformation of data into sound perception or the generation of sound dependent on data as long as it's systematic, objective, and reproducible. So it's just a matter of take the movement, transforming data, and just transforming into sounds, simple. But why exactly should we use sonification in training of dance? So this project, called SPT, has many objectives. I think that sonification could be useful to dancers and training, in particular for 5 different aims. The first is the drastic reduction of visual feedback, the mirrors we hate so much, in having a sort of better recognition of the proprioception system through sound. The expansion of body rhythm, consciousness, and motor signature, and to let the students be more aware of their motor signatures and their characteristic of movement, their own. Supporting teaching technique, improvisation, and movement qualities, of course. The research of the profound truth of movement and its reason, avoiding the imitation of emotion. So through the system, we can have a really analysis of what we do, even the micro gestures. So we can have a sort of analysis of what are the real intention and deep, even the unconscious one that we never know or never see, through the transforming movement into sound. And of course, parallelly, the increased listening sensitivity of performer. So why should you choose the sound? During these studies, I had the possibility to study many synesthesias. And I found out, not me, the scientists, that the sound movement synesthesia is the most subjective we have. So what's sound movement synesthesia? It's the simple activation of rhythmic and auditory perception, even when the subject is exposed to visual stimuli devoid of sound. So why exactly is the most objective? During the studies in 2008, science and coach find out that when we have 2 groups, one of synesthetic subjects and one of non-synesthetic control subject, and we ask them to say whether consecutive sensory or light or acoustic signals were the same or different, we have really different results. Both groups have achieved excellent results with the reconnection of sound stimuli, of course, but for the visual one, we had really different results. Of course, it was easier for the synesthesias subject to recognize that, and not for the others. But what's the point of the more objective synesthesia point? Is that while they're observing the activity of the brain, they saw that while both groups were exposed to the stimuli, the same part of the brain has the same kind of activity, just in a different intention. So we can say, more or less, that for everybody, the association between sound and movement is a natural thing. Just many people just understand it more and have a more conscious way to do it, and other, they are just in a conscious way. So for example, we can say that many of us can, for example, associate a really deep and going downwards movement to a really low frequency sound, and vice versa. Of course, I have not the time to go in deep on every study. I had to see and study for coming to that point. But I can say that sonification is a matter in the scientific world, not just for the science and rehabilitation medicine, but even for dance. Just the point was that they used to use sonification to little experiment, but never really for a program of teaching and training completely. So here we go to Sonified Proprioception technique. Simple is the system that put the dancer inside a sort of circle. So we can take the movement, transform into data with sensor or with motion capture, and we can just transform it in sound. The dancer is able to listen to its own sound and to have a sort of biofeedback of what we do. Just for information, is a technique that used to take some thing in the technical part from the Cunningham technique and the release method. Personally, I studied Cunningham as my technique, so I thought that, not just for that, but I thought that this technique is perfect for motion capture because it's a standing technique and is a more easiest technique I found nowadays to be recognized by motion capture and sensors. And I, anyway, borrow some principle from release method because I thought it was useful for the training, to have more complete training. The lesson is structured like that. Is it divided in 4 parts? A step 0 is just a part that is a short test phase approach to the sound system and see if the machine works. And the first part, that is the initial part of the lesson, there are just pretty technical exercises, so we have biofeedback of that. The second part that involves a use of space in a creative way, and so we have the different exercises like triplets, adagio jumps, and a sort of investigation of the space. And the third part that is, I think, the most important of this technique is the creative improvisation part. Why? Because I think lesson could be more complete if we have a part that is more technical and on the body, on the posture and everything like that, a technique, but it needs always a part that stimulates the creativity of the students, even in the first steps of their training. And of course, this technique is divided into levels. And in every level, we have different organization of this chapter of the lesson. There are the preparatory level, that is a level that is for non-dancer or just beginners or normal people, and it's just a sort of laboratory of investigation of sound and its own movement, just to see how it works and to investigate the personal possibility to move. A beginner, that is a level for the start of using the system for anybody, and has, of course, more part in the technical part and biofeedbacks, just in order to have the security that the students are able to really well know their movement and posture. And we come to the advanced and the intermediate that has step by step always more room for the creativity part, and just go through the technical warm-up and exercise just to be prepared for the last one part of the lesson. So here I present 2 simulations. One is a simulation of some simple exercises that are sonificating weights, and those are just a simulation that we made for the first part of the study, that is the theoretical one. But if we have time, I will present you some seconds of the tests, that are practical tests with sensors that we are nowadays doing in the second part of the study, that maybe I will present next year. I hope so. So, I'd like you to the simulation if it works. We come to the practical test. I wish to say thank you anyway to the sound designer, Andrea Cheda, and to the other sound designer that worked with me on the test you see now, and Gian Giacomo Gallo and Andreas Berkland, that is a teacher from Norway of Sonification Interactive System for Dance and Music. And of course, I want to thank to the Center Casa Paganini of Genoa, that is a scientific laboratory that works with in between new technologies and artistic and medicine and many things like that, that I'm working with in these days. So they give me space and room to work, so I always thank them. So just to come to an end, of course I'm here for any question and to give you the complete paper if you're interested. I bring with me, so if you want, it would be a pleasure for me to give to you and to speak about it. Just to come to an end, this project is just involved in some research project for rehabilitation, for many other kind of topics like dance-art and entertainment, and sonification is already a part of that. And for that project in particular, I wish to say that we have many projects, as for example the implementation of group sonification for the ensembles, and immersive and interactive performances, and of course a thing that we really like to do, try maybe when we have the complete system, is to try to be a sort of support for the teaching of dance to blind subject, for example. That's it. Thank you for the attention, and